So the theme today, so here I am talking about choice points, frequencies, choice points, and self-talk. So I will do my best to give you an orderly idea of what I have in mind. But did you notice during the meditation, well, actually during this whole morning, is when this group comes together, as is true with every other group everywhere, frequencies are generated, and those frequencies touch everyone in some way or another. And one of the things I have come to feel during this time in particular, where our collective, our global collective, is so fraught with suffering and contention and all kinds of things that create struggle, it becomes, for me, even more important to be aware of what frequencies I'm resonating with at any given time. Because whatever tone or energy you are accessing, let's say if it's anger or ease or whatever, you are also automatically, without question, tuning in on the collective expression of that frequency. So one of the things that I keep as kind of an ongoing form of subtle activism is I check what frequencies I'm resonating with, because anything I'm resonating with is also going straight into the collective. Not to make it a should or a big burden, but to remember we are affecting each other all the time, in every moment. So I'm become kind of a nut job about frequencies. And one of the things I've asked people to be aware of, and I didn't do this during the meditation, but I want to invite you to play with this, is in the work I do, I'm often orienting people to their core self, their core presence. And I'm inviting people to notice that your core presence, the energy radiating from you just by being who you are, generates a unique energy signature that nobody else has. We each are a unique moment in time when life is living as a human being. And every single one of us is constantly radiating our unique energy signature, our frequencies. Now, also, someone told me a while back to just notice that these bodies, these wonderful bodies that we have the privilege to live in order to be here, are comprised of over 5 trillion organisms, most of whom are not human. We live in a collaborative community, and our unique energy signature, the frequencies with which we resonate, touches every single one of these organisms that comprise these bodies. So I have found myself more and more feeling the deep importance of frequencies, of the energies we resonate with as we're going through our day-to-day activities or whatever we're doing. We are in an energy reality, whatever we're doing. So frequencies as the ocean we swim in. But I love quantum physics stuff because it tells us we're not limited to these 3D ideas and experiences we've had. We can reach much more widely if we have awareness. We can call on energies that we might not normally call on. Now, this is going to sound a little out there, but actually, from the Fintorn point of view, it's not. So I'm going to offer this from a Fintorn point of view. But when I used to teach somatic experiencing, which I don't teach anymore, but there would be maybe 70 people in a room. Before I would go to the room, every single time, I would call on beings. I never saw them. I didn't know what they were, but I would ask them to bring stability and healing to the space so that everyone coming to those trainings would have whatever for them would be a healing experience. I wouldn't know what that was. But I would imagine a light being in the center of the room and then one in each corner of the room. I never did a class without doing that first. Did it do anything? I have no idea. This is where the not knowing comes in. But I always set the intention. So frequencies, if we think about frequencies, I was asking for frequencies of stability, holding, things that would allow the room to be in an energy state where healing and deepening could happen without my having to know what it would be or how it would work. Now, not everybody's going to think about this the way I do, okay? So I think of frequencies as embodied spirits. So when my sister and I used to go take our mother out for a weekend jaunt, the first thing I would do in the morning before we would meet is in my meditation, I would call on the spirit of kindness to fill me for that day so that I would be particularly at ease and available in a kind way. And I noticed every time I did that, I would have a pretty easy day. Now, I can hear colleagues going, yeah, that's called self-hypnosis, right? It worked, yeah, okay. But it doesn't matter. I'm glad you brought Fintorn into the room because I can really be my far out self and it won't matter. I work a lot on calling on frequencies as living presences. You don't need to do that. I just want to convey that frequencies really count. They matter. It matters where we're resonating. So our thoughts, this idea of choice points is a really important piece because one of the things we're discovering now in working with the brain and neuropsych and that kind of thing is a really important part of our awareness is what's now being called the noticing brain. It used to be called the observer, but I prefer noticing brain because there's not even a hint that you would be critical of yourself, right? Sometimes the observer people think of something like this, but the noticing brain simply asks us to notice, what am I doing right now? What am I feeling? What am I resonating with? When we notice, we have choice points that show up. So I'm going to give a very mundane example, but I live with 3 felines, and one of them got an allergy, so she was busy licking her fur off. It was really rather dramatic. And so finally, they gave me a lotion of prednisone to put in her ear for a course of X number of days. And the morning I was going to start that, I woke up and I started thinking of all the ways that was going to be a disaster, right? How to do this. I was still in bed, but I was cooking along, and I suddenly caught myself and I went, wait a minute, what are you doing resonating with what won't work? And I just shifted to say, why don't I just, even though I can't imagine it, why don't I just start resonating with this is going to work out really well? I have no idea how. That goes back to the not knowing. But the shift in the resonance I was responding to, and within just a couple of seconds, some ideas dropped in my head that indeed did turn out to be the ideas that worked. I'm quite convinced I would not have gotten to those solutions if I had stayed in the frequency of worry and oh no. So our self-talk really is self-hypnosis. It truly and honestly is. Now, I think a big question here is how do we track habitual ways of thinking and our tried and true frequencies we resonate with, whether that's worry or whatever? How do we track that and still be deeply loving and kind to ourselves? That's a really important choice, is to make sure that this is a gentle and kind journey of self-awareness when we're looking at where am I resonating, what frequency am I at right now, what am I telling myself that's generating my whole internal experience in this moment, but gently and lovingly. These choice points, I was at the periodontist about a month ago, and I was in the chair for 2 hours. And at about an hour and 15 minutes, I noticed my body was getting a little tense. And I thought, okay, what can I do here? Because they can't stop, and I need to still just be here. And I did something I tend to do when I'm in a pickle and I need a way out. I started to attune to the spirit of gratitude for all the training this young woman, had gotten that was allowing her to do what I couldn't do for myself. And as soon as I started resonating with the frequency of gratitude, I noticed my body just started to settle. So it's not anything anyone outside would notice, but it entirely shifted my physiology back into, okay, I'm here for however long this is going to be, and I am so grateful to be receiving something I can't do for myself. I think that resonating with gratitude is an amazingly healing and empowering frequency. It can shift a lot of things. So just to be aware, I would ask you actually to play with this, that as you're moving through a day, to notice where you're going down a track that is not enhancing your experience, and then play with, again, without judgment, but with loving kindness towards yourself, play with shifting to a different frequency, doesn't matter what one, and notice what happens. Because here I want to kind of slide over into a more quantum-y way of thinking. I think, tell me if anybody in the room knows quantum physics well. I apologize. I'm about to fracture quantum physics. But I have gotten the idea from all the reading I've been doing that intention greets and meets probability. That in a quantum world, probabilities are shifting in every moment, and intention orients you to particular probabilities unfolding. So I want to invite you to think about what intentions is your self-talk carrying? Are you thinking about something that's going to take you down a track that enhances? That's why the song was so perfect. I think that the idea of allowing our lives to be enhanced but not having any idea how that's going to happen, but the intention is there. One of the things I've been asking people to do, and this is a little tricky, I worked for a long time on the optimal future self. However, now, with my deepening sense that there's no there, there's only here, there's only the present, and everything is the present. I've been asking people to imagine, can they welcome their optimal life that is arriving and arising? That's not out there in the future somewhere, because there isn't really any out there in the future. There are all the probabilities and possibilities here and now. To allow each of us to allow our optimal life to arrive and arise without having any idea what that is. This goes back to the not knowing, because I think when we consciously think about our optimal life, we might burden it with preconceived ideas. And I truly, honestly believe that things can be wildly better than we are conditioned to imagine. So you might take a moment to notice if right now in your body, mind, being, You were orienting your awareness to the fact that if your intention is to open to your optimal future that is arriving and arising right now. If you did that every day without knowing what that means, then you might notice that ideas were changing or synchronistic possibilities are showing up that you wouldn't have imagined were possible for you. Just by being aware of the intention is you are orienting to what's optimal for you, even though you don't know what that is. I think it's very uncomfortable in our culture to not know, right? To not have a conscious idea of where we're going, what we're doing. But I've just found over the years that I would think too small for the life I live now. You couldn't have paid me to imagine I would have had this life. It was just nowhere in my programming of what was possible for me. So I know how powerful it can be when we open to receive. It's like, another way I think about this is we are a unique opportunity, everything is, for life to express itself. And it's kind of like being an instrument and wanting to be played as fully as possible. And how can we do that when we don't even know maybe what's possible? So for me, this using the idea of intention connecting with probability, constantly inviting what is optimally available to me that I don't know about, that I am willing to receive. Now, the weird thing about receiving things that are even optimal for you is so very often when we take steps forward, we're stepping away from something else. So it can elicit change, and change, even good change, can be uncomfortable. But it's a matter of being willing, if I can find the right words for this, being willing to be lived by life as fully and completely as possible with no holding back. And imagine if all of us could just live as fully and completely as possible with no holding back. What we might be able to express and experience that we don't think is possible for us. So that's really my deepest invitation in all of this, is to optimize our gift to the life that's living us. And tracking these choice points of just noticing, where am I right now and what am I resonating with? Not only that, but what am I bringing into the world? What am I adding to the collective? That the meditation, when I was asking you to imagine this network of light around the world, I had that in a meditation a while back, and I can't think of the planet now without this web of light surrounding it all the time. And so it could be, it wouldn't have to be groups coming together to celebrate the sacred. It could be groups doing good work. All around the planet, there's so much good work happening that we don't hear about. And it lights up the world in a collective way. It's like collective networks of light that we can nurture and support simply by how we're moving through the world and by what we bring as we offer our presence to anything we're doing, anything. I mean, when I'm using my trusty little vacuum cleaner, for me, everything's alive. And I thank it when we're done. With 3 cats and 2 litter boxes, that toilet of mine is just such a good friend. Every day, many times a day, I'm saying, thank you, you work so well, and this could be a big job without the things around us that offer their support. So I would also invite bringing the frequency, 2 different energy experiences. One that in every moment, without exception, you are in relationship to everything around you. Everything. That there is a presence, everything. And to have a more active, reciprocal relationship, bringing in acknowledgement and gratitude with everything that you have that makes your life work, or everything you run into that brings you joy or pleasure. Walking, that's why I spend as much time as I can in Central Park, because I get to be with the trees and the animals and the rocks and just with life all around. How do we bring ourselves more alive to resonate with that frequency of abundant presence? And mostly so we can give life the gift of being able to express uniquely in every single one of us. There's no duplicate. Even if we were identical twins, there's no duplicate of life living the unique energy presence that you are. And so, probably getting to be time to close. So I just want to ask you to feel the resonating tone of you right now in this moment. If you dropped into yourself, just being aware of you and what you right now bring not only to this group, and those of you on Facebook, there is no there, so your energy is here also. It's why I've been challenging my brain lately to really start to move out of linear reality to understand there is no there. So energy-wise, we are all together. So just to notice how that feels when you're resonating with your unique presence and honoring your unique presence. That you are a gift to life in this moment that nobody else can fill. There's nobody who can be you. So you're in a unique moment in time. And so as I close, just keep, please, noticing, resonating with the energy that is you and the beautiful energy here in the room. Lovely to be here. Take care. Thank you.